Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we are specifically going to talk about how to handle death. Specifically, when a player character death occurs, how do we handle that in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, right? Because, like most things, the smartest people in the community got it wrong. They're getting it wrong constantly, all right? So who got it wrong now? Well, it's Dungeon Craft, okay? Dungeon Craft, brilliant Dungeons & Dragons commentator, far better than me at this game. He's got way more followers. His quantity is I beat him in quantity, but I don't beat him in quality. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. If you're not watching Dungeon Craft, get yourself over there. He's absolutely fantastic. But he just said something wrong. Actually, you know what? It's not wrong. It's actually shockingly self-unaware, right? More and more people, a lot of times people, they're not wrong. It's that they're like just missing the forest for the trees. They're missing so much. They're so blind, right? They're blinded to the facts on the ground, okay? And they're not seeing what's there. Okay, that's what I mean by blind, all right? All right, so what did Dungeon Craft miss? So he did a great video recently, and it was like the 8 things you can do to be your Dungeon Master's favorite player. It was very fun. And it was specifically to a response who's like, the 8 types of worst players. And we get that content everywhere, right? It's hard to do positive content on YouTube because nobody cares, right? And if you're like, I don't like this, you get 10 times the views, right? So, but, because he's a dedicated, engaged YouTuber, he tries to do, a mix of positive and negative, right? So one of his things he said, be a good sport. When your character dies, be a good sport. And one of the things that, I'm trying to change your mind, right? I'm not one of these people who's like, your game's good and my game's good and we're all doing great. If you want that, get thine self to Ginny D and 50 other, shallow thinking D&D commentators, right? There's plenty of that nonsense elsewhere, right? I want you to play the best game of Dungeons & Dragons, and I want Dungeons & Dragons to accomplish goals through your game, right, and through your play, right? So here's the issue, right? In order to do that, you have to stop thinking of it as a game, but as a life path, right? Now, I know, right, most of you don't believe Dungeons & Dragons is a life path. Most of you believe it's a game, right? But I'm going to continue to present evidence so that it becomes shockingly clear it's not a game. So Dungeon Craft helped with this week. He's like, you know what I would like you people to do? I'd like you to accept death well. And you're like, what? Like, do you understand how shockingly ignorant what you're saying is? Right? Well, first of all, people don't accept death well, right? Anywhere, right? Death is like a major issue with people. And I'll tell you, in America, we are super weirded about death, right? We don't really talk about it. Like, there's a lot of, like, oh my gosh, I'm blessed to be connected to a few rich people, right? And oh my gosh, when they die, it is like, even when people have wills, like, it's crazy. Like, there's so much struggle to split up estates, and there's backfighting, and like, death is horrible in IRL, right? Guess what? It's horrible in Dungeons & Dragons, right? And I want Dungeon Craft, and I want you to think about what Dungeon Craft is saying is, hey, you out there, I'd like you to accept death well. First of all, people don't do that in their real lives. Why on earth would they do it in a game, right? Like, you're asking them to do something that they can't do, right? Like, and here's the issue, right? The reason why he says such shockingly ignorant things is he thinks it's a game. But here's the problem, right? It is outrageous to ask people to accept death well in Dungeons & Dragons because it's so shockingly wrong, right? So first of all, I'm going to tell you how to handle it. If you get a player character death in Dungeons & Dragons, this is the way I handle this, right? First of all, you should immediately stop play, right? And you should make sure that, and actually, I would shut the game down, right? Especially if you're in a con game or something like that, it's a little different. But I would shut the game down and say, listen, I'm going to go get some tea. I'm going to put on coffee for everybody, and we're going to reminisce about the character's life. Right there, you're going to shut the entire game down. Do not move 1 centimeter forward, right? Now, why is this? Now, first of all, I just had a player character die. His name was Beryl. He was a turtle wizard. What was his? Folk hero. A turtle wizard, folk hero named Beryl. Right. I had only played him for 4th, 5th, and 6th levels. I had about 50 hours invested in that character. Right. I had easily, like 5, 6, maybe close to 10 sessions with that character, and a friend of mine had bought me an absolutely spot-on perfect miniature of him. And I'm terrible at miniatures. I'm like, here's my bottle cap. That's my turtle, right? But my buddy had got me this absolutely gorgeous, spot-on, turtle character. And he bought it for the game. It was $5, right? But he gave it to me. He never asked for a dime back, right? And I was like, this is Sunday. We gather together on Sunday. But I'm like, on Wednesday, my friend was thinking about me, and he got something for me that was nice. It was a gift. It was small. It meant a lot to me, right? I have a special little box where I still have it. And guess what? I have that little box that protects that. It actually was 2 minis. It's the same character in 2 different positions. But this character, that I was blown away, and it just made me so sad. And to this day, I have a special container, and I just haven't even pulled that Beryl character out of the box, but it makes me sad, right? And I had read all of the spells that, I had sat down on my couch and read all the spells, and I was thinking, these are my plans for Beryl's future, and I would think, we were in a glade, right? And one of the dungeon masters, described the smell of purple flowers, and I have the smell of purple flowers in my head that I have never seen, right? And Beryl meant something to me, and that was 3 levels, right? And I'll tell you right now, I was devastated, and I was out of the game the rest of the game. And I really wish they had just stopped, and we had all just had coffee and mourned the passing of Beryl, right? He was dead, right? And our games, we don't resurrect people, right? And it was a deep loss to me, right? And here's the thing. A lot of people, I already know your answer. You're like, Scott, it's a game. Suck it up, right? First of all, it's my time. It's my friendships. It's my memories. It's my sensory palette, right? This was an identity that was nested inside of me, and that is now carved out and gone, right? And when you say, be a good sport, first of all, people don't die in sports, right, generally. And if they do, you bet, when Dale Earnhardt, died in a fiery wreck, was everybody like, let's finish the race? Or no, I don't think they did, right? When somebody dies, the race ends. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, right? So you don't just keep going on with the game, it's, death means things, right? Here's the last part, right? We are starting to talk as a culture about mental health, right? And we're saying mental health matters, right? So if mental health matters, and we're supposed to be going all the way to the point where the government start paying for, people's mental health, like they pay for people's physical health with Medicare and Medicaid, things like that, and programs. But how does that mesh with the idea that, this loss to you doesn't matter because it's just in your mental health part of your body and your mind and your spirit, right? How does that mesh, right? And so the reality is, Dungeon Graph was shockingly wrong. When your player character dies, right? First of all, I think most game masters don't understand that you should really end the game, right? If you have a player character that ends, it's terrible, right? You don't want to. You're in hour 1, and a lot of games are 4 hours long, and you get 3 hours left, right? But I really think it's much better because I was wounded. I was mentally, emotionally, spiritually wounded by the loss of Beryl, right? And honestly, I just kind of dragged myself through the rest of that game. But I wanted to take Beryl to level 20. He meant a lot to me, right? And the reality is, I had to just kind of shove my feelings down. But I'm telling you right now, one, if you're a game master, very much consider ending your game when player characters die. And it says, I value the time you invested in this character. This meant something. It meant something to me, it meant something to you, and it meant something to every player at this table. And we will remember him, right? And we're going to lose some game time. But we realize that you can be emotionally, spiritually, intellectually wounded by this loss, right? And this is what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm saying we should be this invested in Dungeons and Dragons. This whole idea of, are we in the real world, or are we in the in the fantasy world? That conversation's over. We are all highly invested in entertainment. People routinely weep over movies and video games now. Like, that whole conversation meant something in the 80s, but that conversation's done. We are highly invested in these characters, right? So if you watch, this dungeon craft thing, just remember the right path here. Shut your games down, honor the character. And the other thing is, if you're a player character and you got one of these game masters, one of these dungeon masters who don't know, right, to end a game, just say, I'm terribly sorry, I really wish I could continue. I'm upset about the death of that character. And you can even clarify and say, I'm not saying, and I would really encourage you, do not debate whether the dungeon master was right or wrong to end your character. Just say, I'm sorry, I'm actually upset right now, and I'm going to go home, right? And then I wouldn't even say, it's not you, just like say, I'm sorry, I'm emotionally upset right now, and I would like to leave the table and go home, right? And just explain to people, you're hurt and you're upset. And honestly, I was very hurt and upset when Beryl died. And so I just want, and for the love of goodness, people, please pull these blinders off your eyes, right? Because if we don't, we say stupid things like, accept death well. What the fuck? It's crazy. All that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think that death of a character is nothing? You might be one of these OSR GMs who runs a funnel, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. Or have you ever felt like I have? Have you felt a lacuna inside you when you lost a character, right? I felt deeply hurt, and I only had three levels in on this guy, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know about your experiences with the characters you've had that have passed. Am I the only one here? Are others, deeply upset when player characters die? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.